planning. You looked at the coffins, you looked at the red carpet. Everything we saw in today's planning is Hezbollah made. It's not Lebanese made. It's not Lebanese government made. The Lebanese government is joining in the celebration, trying to basically glorify these prisoners and the remains that were returned. But the biggest winner here, it looks like, is Hezbollah.
Certainly, public relations, political victory can be declared this day by Hezbollah. And unfortunately, this isn't the last such scene.
It isn't. And you know, they're saying it out loud. As a matter of fact, you look at the banners all around Naqoura, all around Beirut. They're saying the prisoners now, what next? They're already planning the next move. Some are saying that the Sheba farms are going to be the next thing to be negotiated. So Hezbollah is already talking about the future, that this now let's celebrate, but there's more to come.
All right. Octavia Nasser, as always, thank you very much for being with us. We've got to take a short break here. When we come back, surprise move, Iran's supreme leader urging respect and limits on the nuclear issue as a top U.S. envoy prepares for talks with Iran.
Stronger. It has at least 3 times the number of missiles and weapons it had before the war. Ehud Barak, Israel's defense minister, says 1701, the UN resolution that has put Hezbollah away from Israel's borders, it did not work, is not working, and probably won't work in the future. Politically here, domestically, inside Lebanon, Hezbollah got what it had been demanding for a year and a half, a veto power in a new national unity government. So for many people here, whether they are with Hezbollah or against Hezbollah, today is a victory for Hezbollah in many ways. It's not just about those 5 Lebanese prisoners. It's not just about freeing them. It also has to do with an achievement, with Lebanese movement succeeding in forcing Israel to backtrack, to have a prisoner swap, to free Samir Kintar, along with 199 bodies. We have to remember the families of those 5 prisoners are probably very happy today, but there are about 200 families and maybe more who today their grief had been revived. Many of these bodies had been killed, many of these fighters had been killed more than 20 years ago, some 30 years ago, and their families have been waiting for some kind of a conclusion. They wanted to get their bodies back. They didn't know whether they were alive or dead. And for these families, today is a very sad day. And this is something that even the families of the live prisoners, they told us they are thinking about them. Now those bodies are still in Naqoura at the Lebanese-Israeli border within the territory where Hezbollah controls, but they will not be coming to Beirut today. They won't be bringing them to Beirut today. There has to be some tests, DNA tests, other tests performed in order to identify those bodies and to decide whom do they belong to. And this is one sad episode for many families here today. What we also need to remember is that many of those people who are receiving the prisoners, if you look now, you probably have pictures. We have pictures here that we can see of the road leading to this airport. It's packed with people, with cars, not only Lebanese, but also Palestinians, not only supporters of Hezbollah, but even supporters of other nationalist movements here in Lebanon, other political movements, because many of these fighters went and fought Israel even before Hezbollah came to existence. Hezbollah was not even then in Lebanon. There was no such thing as Hezbollah. They were from the Communist Party, secular movements, leftist movements, Fatah Palestinian, the PLO movements. And so many of the people here, especially in the Palestinian refugee camps, it's kind of a sad day as well. They know that the families are finally going to be able to bury their sons, probably with appropriate funerals, and this is a sad occasion. What we also need to mention is that this occasion here, the developments here in Lebanon, are probably being watched throughout the Arab world. Many in the Arab world, see this as a success, as an Arab success over Israel. For a long time, they have been told by their leaders that it's futile to try to fight Israel. It's futile to try to force Israel into doing something because Israel is so strong. And now Hassan Nasrallah and Hezbollah, a small organization, in a small country like Lebanon with very limited resources, have been able to defy this kind of conviction and prove that, yes, you can fight Israel and you can bring results. And this is the message that Hezbollah is trying to send across the Arab street, and it's being received very well. I got a lot of phone calls today from friends or people I know throughout the Arab world, even from the Palestinian territories, from Jordan, and they were calling me, why are you not in Naqoura? We took the day off today because we want to watch all this on television. So there's a lot of anticipation, not just because of the 5 prisoners, but because of what this means throughout the Arab world.
Rula, thanks for that. For the moment from Beirut Airport, let's bring you these live pictures again from Naqoura. You can see Samir Kintar sat in the middle of your picture on the helicopter. He is the man with the moustache in the middle of the picture. There are 2 helicopters there. You can see him noticeably weeping. It's quite a wide camera shot, but he seems to be weeping. And he's got someone to his left and someone to his right. He's the man in the middle with the moustache, Samir Kintar, the man at the center of the celebrations in Naqoura, which presumably would be dying down because the helicopters are now going to lead, and as you can see, the helicopter doors are being shut. It's about to leave, and it will make what should be a routine 20-minute journey to Beirut Airport, where Rula Amin is. The helicopter is about to leave. Mohammed Vala, our correspondent, has been there all day. Mohammed, you've been doing a sterling job. Mohammed, just to rewind a little bit, throughout the day, of course, there were thousands of supporters in Naqoura waiting anxiously for the arrival of these prisoners. There was obviously an overwhelming sense of relief when the prisoners arrived there. We know that a lot has been said of the sectarian nature of Lebanon and politics in Lebanon. Was it across board? Were there only Shia, Hizbullah supporters in Naqoura, or was there a broader reflection of Lebanese society?
No way, Imran. This gathering, according to what we heard and what we have been told, included so many factions and so many sensibilities here in Lebanon, groups, factions, not only Hezbollah, not only Shia, not only Sunnis, but also some Christians. Many people from around this area came here today, and I have heard from some of them that they feel proud, even if they don't belong to the Shia faction. They feel proud that they are Lebanese today, because they feel that after this, nobody in this region can mess up with the Lebanese. That's the feeling here today. Lebanon is a free nation, a nation that can defend itself by force and by diplomacy as well. And what Hezbollah has done, has achieved today, is something that every Lebanese seems to be proud of, notwithstanding their political or religious affiliations.
Mohammed Val, for the moment from Naqoura, as things wind down over there. Let's bring in our political analyst, Marwan Bishara, who's sitting in a studio in London, who's been watching proceedings for many hours now. Marwan, interesting that Samir Kintar comes out of prison after 29 years and gets to meet his president, or he will be meeting his president very soon. What sort of role do you foresee for Samir Kintar in the future in Lebanon, given that he's received and will be receiving a hero's welcome?
Well, actually, Amran, judging from previous prisoners released into the hands of Hezbollah over the last 2 decades, since the first exchange in 1996 and before that 1991 actually, there hasn't been really much of a role to play for those previous prisoners. But what's interesting in this very question that you asked is the fact that he will be received by a Lebanon he did not know, or that a Lebanon that he did not live in 1970s. You know, if you remember, in the middle of the 70s, when Samir Kintar was held prisoner by Israel, and later on in the 1980s, Lebanon was living a civil war. Now he comes out to a united Lebanon, living under a president of consensus and a coalition government of all the political factions of the country. After 29 years going through a horrific civil war, 15-year civil war, and 2 decades of Israeli occupation, including a number of invasions and the 2006 war. But now Samir Kintar comes out to a country that is united, at least politically, around a coalition government and a president that it's elected unanimously just a few weeks ago.
Yes, very different Lebanon that Samir Kintar has come back into, and be interesting to see whether he has a political role in Lebanon's future.
It's kind of, some people called it a national wedding, a place where Lebanese have demonstrated their unity. Now, there are nationwide celebrations. You can, the road from the airport here to Dahiya, the southern suburbs of Beirut, the stronghold of Hezbollah, it's packed with people and with cars. People who can't wait to see those freed prisoners. For them, it's not just about those 5 prisoners. It's an achievement, a success, not only for Hezbollah, for Lebanon, for Lebanese, and for the Arab world. The Arab world have not celebrated any kind of success in a long time. And this success is very important for many people here, and it's getting acknowledgement. For the past 2 years, Hezbollah and its leader Hassan Nasrallah had been saying that the war with Israel had been a success and a victory. And today they feel that that statement had been sealed. They said that that war was not necessary. The only way to bring the soldiers back was through negotiations. And that war proved, in their point of view, as futile since the prisoners were not freed. And now, after that war that cost Lebanese a lot of destruction and a lot of lives, more than 1,000 Lebanese had been killed in that war, still Israel had to negotiate with Hezbollah and had to release those prisoners. And for many, this is very symbolic. It's symbolic of what Hezbollah had promised and delivered, and symbolic of what Lebanese consider now as something they achieved. It's a source of pride for many people here.
Celebrations ongoing in southern Beirut. We can see the yellow and green Hezbollah flags alongside the Cedar of Lebanon, Lebanese flags, including the odd Palestinian flag that we'd seen, posters of Imad Mughniya, who was killed in Syria, the Hezbollah head. Lots of celebrations on the streets of southern Beirut. Marwan, I think it just vindicates what you said, that this is a unifying moment in Lebanese politics, but also in terms of the morale of the nation.
You know, sometimes, Imran, it is said that history is written by victors. And in this case, one has to admit that it is as such. If Hezbollah has not allowed Israel not to win over Lebanon, I'm not sure we would have seen these images before, because if you recall, in the summer of 2006, a lot of the people who were present today at the airport were very critical of that war and very critical of Hezbollah for capturing those Israeli soldiers and carrying that cross-border attack. However, today it is clear that after some 2 decades of Hezbollah resistance, that Lebanon is more or less free, and all Lebanese are free of captivity. When Egyptian, Palestinian, even Jordanian, Syrian prisoners remain in Israeli captivity. The fact that Hezbollah succeeded in repelling the Israeli war and attack in Lebanon, the fact that Israel withdrew in a very humiliating way unilaterally from Lebanon, allows now Lebanon, at least for the day, to live under the shadow of Hezbollah. However, having said that, Hezbollah now needs to be a responsible partner in a national unity government, in a political process that it has already committed to. And in a sense, this is also a day that will lock in Hezbollah in a political process that it had vowed to be a responsible party in, and hence paving the way for national elections next year.
Marwan, thanks for that for the moment. Well, there have been tremendous scenes of celebration throughout Lebanon, particularly now in southern Beirut. Thousands have taken to the streets, flag waving, all sorts of ceremonies going on. And despite that, from the scenes of celebration in Lebanon, to ones of sorrow in Israel. DNA tests have confirmed the bodies returned to them on Friday were indeed those of two soldiers captured in 2006. Relatives of Ehud Goldwasser and Eldad Regev were holding on to faint hopes that the men would be alive. David Chater has all the information.
The mood of a nation graphically expressed in the grief of the families of the Israeli soldiers, their slender hopes of welcoming back their sons alive from the hands of Hizbullah finally extinguished by the sight of two black coffins being transferred to the Red Cross. The final painful chapter of the Second Lebanon War being played out on Israel's northern border. A nation's vow fulfilled. Their soldiers returned to their homeland and their loved ones. But their agony continues.
I cannot understand what the Lebanese are so glad about and happy about. They sacrifice over 700 of the best warriors and all their economy, and what they get for what they did, they get a murderer, a bloody murderer of 3.5 years old girl and a father, and for this they are making all this glory, for this they sacrifice so much, so I feel only pity for them.
This deal involves a very painful price. On the other hand, we must be proud of the decision made by the State of Israel to bring back Eldad and Ehud. It was the moral obligation of the State of Israel.
The bodies of the two soldiers were taken for a forensic examination to confirm their identities. Israeli intelligence chiefs warned the deal with Hezbollah would only lead to more abductions. But the Israeli government decided the deal had to go ahead, a decision backed by the majority of the Israeli public, although the moral dilemmas were profound.
For us, it's a sad day, but it's one with the expectation of closure. We're not happy, but we do feel that we're filling the moral aspect of the State of Israel.
The 5 Lebanese prisoners were held at an Israeli army base near Nahariya as the deal got underway. They were pardoned by the Israeli president on Tuesday night.
The price Israel is paying here at Rosh Hanikra is expected to be small in comparison to the one they'll have to pay for another missing Israeli soldier. Gilad Shalit has been held now hostage in the Gaza Strip for more than 2 years.
Before the soldiers' coffins made their final journey back to their families for burial on Thursday, Hamas issued a statement saying the deal with Hezbollah proved the only successful way to get Palestinian prisoners released from Israeli jails is to capture Israeli soldiers. David Chater, Al-Jazeera, on the Israel-Lebanon border.
Hello and welcome to Inside Story. I'm Lauren Taylor. An historic prisoner exchange has been taking place between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hizbullah. The deal that closes the prisoners issue follows German-led negotiations resulting in the freeing of 5 prisoners held by Israel in exchange for the bodies of 2 Israeli soldiers killed 2 years ago. Hezbollah celebrates the release of its last captives in Israel as a victory. Many Israelis, though, see it as a painful necessity.
Under the unfolding prisoner swap taking place between Hezbollah and Israel, Hezbollah has just received the remains of Lebanese and Arab fighters. More are still to come, including the remains of Lebanese and Palestinian fighters, as well as 5 Lebanese prisoners still alive. In exchange, Hezbollah returned the remains of 2 Israeli soldiers captured in a Hezbollah cross-border raid 2 years ago. Israel promised to get them back, dead or alive.
Now we start the exchange of the prisoners and the detainees. Today, we hand over the 2 Israeli soldiers who had been captured on the 12th of July 2006. Their fate remained unknown until this moment, despite the war that was launched to get them back, and despite the international pressures exerted on us to explain what happened to them. Today, we hand over Ehud Goldwasser and Eldad Regev to the head of the Red Cross.
They returned in coffins, a sad ending for people in Israel who were holding on to the hope that the men may still be alive. An obligation the Israeli government says it is living up to, despite what many in Israel see as an unfair exchange. 2 dead Israelis in return for the remains of many Arab fighters and 5 alive Lebanese ones. including this one, the most controversial of all, Samir Kintar. He, along with the 4 others, are set to come home to mass celebrations and a national homecoming, as people in Lebanon wait to welcome their men and women home. Zaina Awad, Al-Jazeera.
My sense is that Hezbollah is basically true to its word on these prisoner exchanges, that they really have their own internal logic that are free from political considerations, although one has to keep in mind that Hezbollah is particularly gifted at stage managing these kind of events. I mean, literally, this prisoner exchange is happening 2 years after the original incident.
Scenes of celebration, and the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, you see there taking to the stage, about to make a speech. This is a rare public appearance for him. He's there, of course, to greet the 5 prisoners who have been freed in southern Beirut. Thousands have gathered there to welcome the men home. They arrived earlier on Wednesday. They arrived on the Lebanese side of the border. They were given a hero's welcome. That was part of a deal. Hezbollah handing over the bodies of 2 Israeli soldiers seized 2 years ago. Those are scenes of celebration that you see there in southern Beirut, where the Hezbollah leader is now addressing the many thousands of people who've gathered. Let's hear what he's saying.
Congratulate you all on this victory, on the liberation of your companions. As I told you, in the year 2000, the era of the defeats ended, and now we have embarked on an era of victories. This people, this country, this nation that gave a clear idea to the whole world, to our enemies and to our friends, is that we are a country that can never be defeated. I wanted to salute you, to be present. I will go, I will leave you to hear the addresses or the statements of the liberated captives, and I will address you through the screen. And I promise you that I won't be late, because usually I speak for 1 hour or more. Peace be upon you all.
Okay, well, that was indeed a very brief speech from Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, making a rare public appearance to greet the freed prisoners in Beirut. Well, our correspondent Rula, I mean...
It is, and...
Rula, over to you.
Yes. Yes, I hear you. It was a brief speech. It was not even a speech. It was an important, significant appearance. Hassan Nasrallah has not been making any public appearances because of security for his life. Israel had threatened many times that they will go after his life, and usually, even when he wants to make speeches, he does it via the satellite, via a recorded speech. And today he said he could not but come himself to greet the prisoners who were freed and to have a very brief statement. His statement was, the time of the defeats is over, and from now on it's only victories. You can tell from the pictures there that before, now he's gone, but you could tell when the prisoners were greeting him, there was a lot of love and gratitude. Samir Kintar himself, after greeting him, suddenly he started kissing him in a way that showed a lot of gratitude and love between both Samir Kintar and Hassan Nasrallah.
I suppose Nasrallah's appearance at this rally, this huge rally, we're seeing the pictures now, thousands of people who've gathered to welcome these men home. I suppose, Rula, this really highlights the political significance of this deal for Hezbollah, that they have succeeded in striking a deal where others have failed.
Yes, it's very significant. You know, the crowds today who are greeting the prisoners are not just Hezbollah supporters. There are many Palestinians among them, many other Lebanese who are secular, leftist, who have been involved in the struggle against Israel for years. But for now, they have taken the side steps. They've taken the position of just waiting and monitoring. And Hezbollah is leading that kind of struggle. And today, they all came out in acknowledgement of what Hezbollah had achieved. Today is Hezbollah's day and is Hassan Nasrallah's day, because as you said, even Samir Kintar himself. Samir Kintar was a communist. He's a Druze. He belonged to a Palestinian political organization when he carried out that attack. Hezbollah then had not even existed, and so for Samir Kintar to be liberated now by Hassan Nasrallah, by this religious movement, is significant, and it also illustrates the changes that took place in the Arab world.